Welcome back, everyone. This video is we're going to revisit this engine. This is a 1937 Briggs & Stratton Model A that my grandfather had owned. I found this behind his shed, buried in the leaves and the weeds and whatnot. This engine was missing the front flywheel cover, but it was remarkably complete otherwise. So I got this engine running in the fall of 2020, and I have since put it on this. This is a Harbor Freight flat cart, just so I can wheel it around the garage. And I used a heat gun to kind of make the grain pop a little bit and give it a little bit of age. I decided not to put any polyurethane on this because the fuel will just melt it off, so there's no point. This engine is only missing the carb or the air cleaner. If anybody has a 5-digit serial number Briggs Model A air cleaner setup, either design, I don't care which one, please hit me up. I will pay you handsomely for it. It's the only thing it's missing. It is complete otherwise. And the paint that I used is this is Duplicolor Hunter Green engine paint, I believe I used. But it is a sexy engine. It really is. They don't make them like this anymore. So again, this engine, I haven't started it in a while, so I don't know how it's going to start or if it's going to start. But don't worry, this isn't the only thing we're going to do in this video. We're going to take a look at another engine, and we're going to get it running today. I've decided that's going to happen. We're going to get that black engine right there. We're going to get it running today. See what it takes. So this might be a long video, so if this is something that interests you, by all means, grab the popcorn, grab the drink of your choice, and let's have some fun. But to kick things off, I want to get this engine started. One of my viewers actually requested this, and this is for you. So I got the choke set. I'll open up the fuel shutoff. But if you want to learn more about this particular engine, I have an entire video series on what it took to get it running again. It was a little bit hairy at times. It was not. It wasn't terribly difficult, but it did require a complete teardown. This thing had so much water in it. At one point, oh wait, I think I'm going a little bit too far with that shut off. I forgot this one doesn't have a stop on it. It'll just continue threading out until the fuel pisses out of it. So let's just try that again. Let me close it up and then just crack it open. Yeah. What in the hell? Okay, there's a stop. So let's open it 1 or 2 turns. There we go. So I got this engine pretty much dialed in to where it should start. Possibly on the first pull. But we'll see what happens. Here we go. good little runner. Alright, that was enough of that. I'm going to shut the fuel off and let it run down on its own accord. When we left off, this engine, I kind of just sort of took the head off. It was getting kind of cold. It was the end of the fall. We're heading into winter of 2020. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. We took the head off and we found that all the up and downy bits are working. The valves aren't stuck. The cylinder bore is decent. This engine probably doesn't have a lot of hours on it. Maybe it does. What do I know, right? But all the up and downy bits are working. There's no rust or anything going on. I bet you this thing would fire right up if we fixed the ignition system, which is the big problem that we have. The ignition system on this engine is not producing any spark. So what I want to do right now is I want to go ahead and put the head back on. I'm going to clean up the mating surface, the head gasket. We're going to reuse the original gasket. There's no reason why we can't. This is not a rebuild, not like that Model A I have. This is not a rebuild. This is just, let's just see if it starts kind of thing. So I never ordered any parts for this one. I don't know what I'm going to do with this motor. I do believe it came off of an old washing machine though. Either a washing machine or something. This is a very small engine. This is like maybe a 1.5, 2 horsepower motor. It can't be much bigger than that. I don't think I've actually had one this small before. So, when I was a kid, gas engines kept me out of trouble because I used to tinker with them on my free time. You know, when all my friends were smoking pot behind the school, I was at home, you know, working on small engines, making money by mowing lawns, you know, that kind of thing. I didn't really have any interest in that scene they were getting themselves into, and thank God, because at least one of my best friends graduated from marijuana to heroin, nearly ruined his life, so it was really sad. But anyway, so this head gasket, it is damaged. It's got some issues right there. There's some, that piece that I scraped off, that was the other side of this. Probably the factory head gasket too. I bet you it's never been replaced. I used to reuse these all the time, and they never really had a problem with being reused. So we're just going to torque it extra special and hope for the best. So the spark plug's still in the cylinder head, and it looks pretty good to me. Let's take a look at it. Get that in frame. Nice and clean. Let's get this back together. Yeah, gas engines really did keep me out of trouble, and that's, I think I just have a lot of nostalgia for this stuff because it really made me happy. When I was a kid, I'd always look for stuff to repair. In fact, the gentleman who gave me this engine, he was our neighbor back when I was growing up, and we called him John the Junk Man because that's exactly what he was. He worked at the town dump, and what he would do is he would raid the metal piles. Like, I guess they allowed it. It was like one of those, they would just turn a blind eye to it, and until eventually him and his coworkers started getting in trouble. But what he would do is he would raid the metal pile or the lawnmower pile for stuff that he could either sell, repair, sell, and or reuse. You know, it was the ultimate form of recycling, really. I think this goes here. This is the old-fashioned way of shutting an engine down. Oh wait, no, maybe it goes here. That makes a lot more sense. What do you think? Yeah, I like it. But John the Junk Man, he would bring home electronics for me to fix, VCRs, TVs, computers, and in fact, one of my second computer, which was an Ericsson XT clone, came from him, and it was a machine that somebody threw away, and find my socket. And that was that became one of the computers that I actually learned the most on was that old Ericsson. Ericsson, before they were known for cell phones, they were a Swedish communications device manufacturer, and they did actually make computers for a brief period of time. And in the XT clone, IBM XT clone days. But anyway, there's our ground for shutting down. This is, I can already tell you that the coil that's in this engine is not original. The original coil would have had a ring, like a what am I thinking? A ring terminal at the end of it, much like the 1937 that we just started up. In fact, the reason that somebody scraped off this rubber like this was so that the grounding strap could shut the engine down. So somebody's been in there before. One of the biggest problems we have with this engine is we don't have a gas tank, but I have a solution for that. And hey, if I get this thing running, maybe I'll clean it up a little better and make it look pretty again. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to bother torquing anything because why? There's no need. I'm going to have to screw this thing down to the bench. That head gasket might be a problem. Oh, I want to drain the oil out of it before we go too far into this. So why don't we drain the oil out? And I'm going to get my drill and we'll screw it down to the bench so we can work on it a little easier. But yeah, just to remind me, yeah, right, remind me, before we start it, I need to re-torque the head, get it nice and tight. Maybe, I think I'll be all right. Let's see what we got. I don't want to put any pressure anywhere. I ain't supposed to. I don't know what the exact torque pattern is, so I'm just kind of winging it. Let's get this attachment off of here so I can get more positive torque. There we go. I'm just doing it in a semi-haphazardous fashion. Crisscross. There we go. See if it gets any. You know what? See, Briggs, they didn't ever really publish they didn't publish compression numbers on these engines. But if it does this, if it bounces back on a compression stroke, that's what they considered good. So, all right. Why don't we try to get the flywheel off? Am I going the wrong way with this? Yeah, I think so. Oopsies. Oopsie doodles. Oopsies. Don't do that. Wrong direction, asshole. Okay. Oh, you know what? I should probably take the cover off first. Alrighty. 3/8. No? Oh, that's the one right there. Okie dokie. Junkman gave me this engine about last fall. He actually offered me a couple of them, and I'm like, I'll take that one. It looks like it might have a chance in hell of running again. Oh, look at that. So what we got to do is we got to get this guy apart. Is there a casting number for a year? Oh, this one has a broken fin. So we're going to have to break another fin off for balancing purposes. Thought you didn't... I don't know if you guys remember that from the last time. Alright, that was in the other video. So, we need to do some percussing. Gotta get some torque behind this guy. Okay. This backer plate is pretty stiff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go like this. Might have to hit it with something a little bit stronger than that. So what we'll do, I'll put the nut back on. Yeah, this coil is not original. We can leave the coil. If I do restore this, what I'll do is I'm going to leave the coil on, but I'm going to change out the spark plug lead with something a little more historically accurate. Alright. I don't have a proper pry bar, so I'm going to use what I got. I'll put a little bit more on this, like that, and then let's try rotating it a bit, loosen it up. Working at it until it comes free, I guess. Kind of wedge that in there. Let me get another one. And ooh, I got tire irons. That might help. Yeah, let's really give it hell. You guys should bolt this engine down. Usually when they pop, they pop. They just come right off. I think I heard it. No, it sounded like the noise or the pitch had changed a bit. Unless we crack the engine case. In which case, that would suck, wouldn't it? There we go. You never want to hit it hard. You don't want to break something, because you're gonna break something. If you just go at it, you're gonna crack something. So we didn't crack anything. Flywheel looks good. So on these Briggs engines, Unlike the Model A, the magnets are on the outside. The Model A engine, the earlier design, the coil is inside the flywheel. It uses a horseshoe coil. This has definitely been a part before. I see a lot, a lot of tool marks here. So we are not exploring virgin territory here by any stretch. So what I got to do, for some reason all my SAE sockets are missing. Not sure why that is. Let me grab something to take that apart. We'll use pliers. Why not? They did. Alright, now this engine, again, this is a bit more modern than the Model A. Not only does it have the exterior or external coil pack, but it also has actual rubber seals for the crankshaft. I'm not sure if you can see that, but let's take a look. This engine might be one of the first applications that Briggs had for a rubber seal. This engine actually could date back to the 1950s. So it's pretty clean in there. That's a good thing. What do the points look like? Yeah, a little bit of buildup there. A little bit of buildup. The condenser is probably bad. I'm going to give that a solid probably. But we're not going to adjust anything. I think all I'm going to do is we're going to take the breaker arm off. We're going to take this guy off. I learned to do this when I was 9, and I never saw the inside of a service manual before. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of clean those contacts a little bit with some emery cloth. Be right back. Oh, the oil's leaking all out of this thing through the carburetor. That's wonderful. Why wouldn't it, right? I did say I was going to drain the oil out, but oh, you know what? That's the oil in the oil bath air filter. I should have taken that off earlier. Ooh, that rubber seal's gone. Yeah, that's an old-fashioned oil bath air cleaner. We're going to make sure we save that. Those are hard to come by. All right. It was a time when everything had an oil bath air cleaner, it seemed. Cars, trucks. Alright, so we're going to take a little bit of this. This is a 400 grit sandpaper. We're just going to clean these contacts. I should check the gap on these. And I know I can find that information easily. I'm going to clean these points. They're in good shape. They're not really rounded. The points that were in the Model A were pretty rough. Not gonna lie, they were quite nasty. So I bought new ones while I still could. So, and that worked out pretty well. Yeah, there's a little bit of buildup. Sometimes these get built up with carbon and dust and stuff. And it doesn't take much for it to affect the operability of the motor. Clean that up. Most of the time, if you've got an engine that has a breaker ignition like this, you know, usually two things kill them. If the engine's been sitting a while, the carburetor is number one. But the other thing that a lot of people might overlook, especially if they haven't worked on anything this old, is the ignition system. The points-based ignition, or breaker ignition system. It wasn't until the early 80s that Briggs started to phase out these old-fashioned ignition systems. So if you see if your flywheel cover says solid-state ignition or magnetron ignition, then you don't have to worry about any of this. So, oh, I got mass airflow sensor cleaner. That might help us, just to get any oil residue away from there. Flush it all out. All right. do, make sure we don't lose any of these spacers. Let this stuff, oh, you know, I'll just use the air chuck. Just kind of clean it up. So like I said, this engine has a rubber engine seal, and the Model A does not actually have an engine seal. It uses a an oil slinger and which is basically a ring. It's designed to sling the oil away from the end of the crankshaft, but it uses just a splash guard, really, and drain holes. This one has the drain holes, but it's not 100% reliant on those drain holes. So that's one of the big differences there. All right, now what we need to do is get it on a compression stroke or an ignition stroke. And I'm going to check the gap on that. So this is top dead center, and it looks like not closing at all. I gotta rethink this for a sec. It's been a while since I've done this on a okay, it actually closes at bottom dead center. That doesn't seem right to me. Usually, aren't they supposed to close at top dead center? Anyway. Well, it is what it is. Okay. Let's bring it back up again. No, it closes at bottom dead center. How do you like that? Alright, it is closing, it looks like. Get this off the couch. So maybe I'm a little backwards. Again, I haven't really worked on these very much lately, so these old-fashioned ignition systems are still a little bit befuddling to me. But you would think that it would energize I don't know. Well, all right, I'll have to look into that. Okay, so hey, sometimes I'm wrong. All right, it is making contact for sure, so that's good. So we got any debris out of there. There was a little bit of carbon. We got that out of there. So what we need to do now, I don't have the ignition system specs on hand. Let me use my phone. When I was 9 years old, just dabbling in engine repair, we didn't have this. But now we do. This is a Model 5S. And the ignition timing and gap, let's see what it says. An air gap of 8 thousandths to 12 thousandths must be maintained between the armature core ends and flywheel. Okay, you know. Contact points. Adjust gap to 20 thousandths. Okay. So there should be a 20 thousandths gap when they're open. Now we have a nice new set of feeler gauges. I bought this set when I did the Miata, when I did the throttle plate adjustment on that, which, by the way, if you're watching that series as well, those adjustments that I made to the throttle plate stop have worked phenomenally. So 20 thousandths gap when they're open. Now wait a second. Okay, yep, that's about right. All right, gap is a little bit open, so we're going to close that up a smidge. Okay, let's get it top dead center. It's hard to turn this crank when there's no flywheel on there. Yeah, it's a little bit too open, so we're going to close it up. And to adjust that, hear that? All right, to adjust it, it looks like I need to, where is my adjuster? Yes. Okay, so that screw right there. Flat blade. Loosen this up, and this should be pushed up gingerly. There we go. Just leave that tool right in there. Should do it. So we're a little out of adjustment. Anytime you clean them, they should be readjusted anyway. I know that. I should have been more clear. So let's tighten that up good. Points are clean. We don't know the condition of the condenser, but we're assuming it's bad. But I don't have a replacement handy, so we're going to just leave well enough alone. It looks like they used a shellac sealer on this. I don't have that either, so we're not going to bother with that. Okay. The flywheel magnets are rust free. You don't want to have rust on the magnets because that rust can actually cause it to ground out, which would be bad. And same with the coil. So we're gonna leave that alone. All right. Put our flywheel back on. I like to clean the taper, make sure there's nothing built up on that. Make sure the key's in good shape. Always check your key to make sure it's not shifted. It should be straight. And clean that up really good. Are they casting? 46. 46. This is a 1946. Now we know. That is, if those casting marks are to be believed, and that nothing's been replaced. So eventually, I will probably restore this engine, but that day is not. That day is not today. So. Once I get it running, if I find a purpose for it, you know, maybe we'll do something about it. We'll do something cool with it. But until then, not really one of my concerns. So let's just get it running first, and we'll discuss and consider the options. I think this would be a great little mini bike engine. Like a really mini bike. Okay. Put that on there. Give it a few baps. Come on now. Do it. Now, does she make spark? I wonder. Let's ground that out there. Where am I going to put this? Right Right there, maybe. I'm not trying to get a good place to put this in. I don't want to hold it because obviously. Tell you what we'll do. I'm pretty confident that this thing will make noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the spark plug back in. What size is that? Is that a 3/4? No. There'll be one of these, give or take. No. There we go. It's just okay. Here we go. I got to drain the oil out before we get too far. I recall this thing had fresh oil in it. I'm not really sure though. Yeah, it's pretty clean. That's enough. I'll put some clean stuff in there. Yeah, it's a little green. Has a greenish tint to it. 7/16. And we will refill this. I don't have a socket here that's big enough for that. I'll just grab a wrench. It's got to be one of these guys. No. Yes. What I should do is get the should go grab my drill and we'll attach it to the bench. So this is a Craftsman engine, Sears Craftsman. It came off of, like I said, I think it was on a washing machine. I know the 5S was a smaller engine. I don't think it's big enough for a lawnmower. I mean, just look at the shaft size in this thing. It's tiny. And it's got a boss attached to it for what could be a tensioner or something. So what we're going to do, leave on these, you fill it up to like a couple threads down maybe. Just gotta find a small funnel here, clean it out. Ah! Pinched my freaking hand in my blowgun. That hurts. Some of the dumbest injuries, man. I'll tell you. Some of the stupidest things. Clean this funnel out. There. I think I use this for oil. It barely fits in there. So let's find some oil. What do we got? Here's some 530. Got some ATF. Yeah, I got plenty of 530. Let's use this up. Let's see what she does. I don't think this has a very big sump. Yeah, according to what came out of it, there's 16 ounces of oil in there. Was. Let's see where that brings us. That should fill it right up. Really? That was just a splash of oil. This thing has no sump capacity at all. But all right, I'll take it. Yeah. Okay, let's put the cap on. Look at the threads on that. See that? That's all it took. That's all it took. All right. Give it some fresh oil. What could we put this engine on if we get it running? What do you think? You know, if I could find one of those old Maytags, actually no, Maytag had their own engines, and they were cool in their own unique way. That should be fine. All right, I'm ready. Are you? Let's get this on there. How am I going to spin this guy over? I don't want to use an impact. Let me screw it down for safety. Let me go grab my drill. I'll be right back. We'll screw it to the bench. I mean, it'll do, right? Whatever, right? Okay, let me grab a rope. Okay, this is just carburetor cleaner. I don't use that fancy stuff. I'm not fancy here. Here we go. De nada. De nada. Nothing. So far, so good. I will have to check for spark now. Nothing. Nothing. Well, we know the gap is good. What we don't know is if the condenser is any good. Nothing. Nothing, man. Put a little gasoline down the throat. Alright. I think what I'm going to do, if this doesn't start, I'm going to order a head gasket for it. And I'm also going to get a head gasket, and we'll get a new condenser. And I bet you dollars to donuts. I don't know what that means, but it sounded good. I bet you we'll get her started. Put a little bit of that liquid fuel in there. Just a few drops. Nothing. So we're not getting it. We're not getting spark. Chances are. Yeah, there's no spark there. So that would indicate either a ground on the coil somewhere, either grounding out, or, and more likely, the condenser is no good. But at least we'll know. Knowing is half the battle. Let's see. Yeah, we'll know for sure what the deal is with this thing once and for all. What can I use as a sparker spark? Get that wrapped around again. I don't have a condenser, so there's not much we can do at this point in time. But I bet my friend John does. I should go visit him. Hey, buddy. You happen to have an old condenser lying around? He probably does. Let's use this here. Here we go. Oh, no, we have spark. Okay. Well, that just got interesting. We've got spark, for sure. So give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. Yeah, that's a healthy spark. So, okay, condenser is not the culprit now. But what could be? Obviously, fuel system. Obviously, we got a fuel system problem. I'm gonna check that again. That was a pretty strong spark for the gap that I was. Speaking of, we never checked the spark plug gap either. Maybe we should take a look at that. There we go. All right, I held it way too far that time. I saw one spark, and that was it. I don't have any starting fluid. I don't usually buy starting fluid. I don't need it. Alright, how can I... Oh yeah, we got spark for days. Alright, let's take a look at that plug again. Let's check the gap. Okay. It's wet, so the stuff I put in there is getting where it needs to be. Do we have any compression? Okay. Do we have any compression at all? Even if it's low, any compression is you know, a step in the right direction. So, where's my rope? Okay. Let's see what we got. We got to open the choke all the wide open, and I'm going to have to hold the throttle open so we get maximum airflow. Here we are. I'll open it up. It actually does have compression. We've got about 60 pounds. That's not terrible. For an engine like this, it should run on 60 pounds. So that's good. We have compression. Right. So really, fuel system. But it should have lit off. It should have lit off with this carb cleaner. It should. Ooh. Now we have to check the gap on the plug. Let me do that. Okay, now we have to check it. So let me grab my phone and do that. Okay, 25 thousandths gap is what it needs to be. Where's my feeler gauge? There it is. We'll set it to 25 thousandths. I have one for 25 thousandths. And then I'm going to clean it up with the wire wheel. Okay. It's a little open. We'll close it up a bit. I said a bit. Now I got to open it carefully using a smaller tool. Actually, I can usually well, they used to have a gap opener on these tools, but budget cuts being what they are, I miss those days. Yeah, spark plug tools, or I'm sorry, yeah, what am I saying? Feeler gauges had an opening tool on them for the gaps, so I guess those days are gone. I can write it, hey. No, huh? Okay. Okay. Alright, we're gonna very gingerly close it up with the gapping tool in it. I mean, let's be realistic here. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, gap is good. Let's throw some of that shit in there. I want to see this thing do something besides mock me. Okay. All right. Off we go to the wild. It should have lit off though. I mean, we have ignition. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why would that be? Ooh. That was something. Ooh. That's promising. Okay. Now let's go full bore. We need a fuel tank. What do we got? A mason jar. Huh? Mason jar. Right? Why not? Okay, I need to do some stuff. But we'll make this work. Sweet. I should be able to put this. Yeah. Make sure that all fits. Yep, that'll work just fine. Okay, so I want to make sure that the check ball in this guy here still works. So I'm going to clean it out with card cleaner. Whack it against the bench a few times. Hear it? Yeah, I hear it. There's a little check valve, little ball, and its job is to make sure that the fuel doesn't flow backwards out of it. So that is a success. I need to drill these a little bigger. All right, so we've got the jar tank interface. The only problem is the pickup tube isn't long enough, but fortunately they did make multiple lengths of pickup tubes for these engines, so it's not impossible to either lengthen that tube with a little 1/4-inch copper tubing and some solder, which I just might do, or plan B. But let's get some fuel into our tank, our ersatz tank. There we go. Okay. You know, the thing is, repairs like this were once commonplace on the American farm. And this is what the Right to Repair Act is all about. Yes, I had to squeeze that in there somehow, right? Why not? It's a little loose. All right. Now we've done nothing to this carburetor. We haven't even cleaned it. I've done nothing to this carburetor. I don't know if it's going to fire or not, but we're going to try. Okay. I'll clean it up later. Promise. Okay, so we've got our janky ass jar. Oop, will this fit on there? Yeah, we'll put that back on. Put it on later. Doesn't need to go on right now. Here we go. No shit. No shit. Let me open the choke a little bit. No frickin' way. There you go. It runs. Okay. You gotta put a head gasket on this thing. Oh my god. Now it's starting to smell kind of funky. Look at that. Boiling. Oh dear. Burning. It's still going. Smoke pouring out of the cylinder head gasket. It keeps going and going. Not bad. Not bad at all. What do you think we should use it on? I'll get a proper gas tank for it. I mean, now I know it runs. If I find one, I'll put it on. That's a very common fuel tank that they use for many years. Probably hasn't run in 15 to 20 years or more. It's really hard to say. The guy who owned it before the gentleman I got it from is long dead, so Briggs, though. It can't be done. I mean, it could be done, but I'm gonna run the fuel out. I can't shut it off any other way. I could choke it out, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna repaint it. We're just gonna clean it up a little bit. I'm gonna correct spark plug or plug wire. Get a nice new head gasket for it. Thing's running great. I played with the mixture adjustment a bit. Smells like it's running a little rich. I don't want to lean it out too much though. Maybe that's what has to be done. Lean it out a bit. You don't want it too lean. is out to run out of fuel. Away, we'll get the mixture done correctly. My God, that thing. Oh, almost done. Almost. Good to the last drop. So I could, if I wanted to keep the jam jar on here, which I won't, but if I did, yeah, you see we're just there it goes. Look at that thing. It's smoking so much. There's something with that head gasket. That is a lot of smoke. So, just drain the fuel. Put it in the lawnmower. That's a good place for it. So, like I said, I mean, future plans for this engine, now that we got it up and running, I'm done with the ignition system is fine. The condenser seems to be doing its job. We'll leave that alone. Spark plug's in good shape. We'll just clean it up in the wire wheel. I'm going to clean the paint as best I can without repainting anything. I like the original finish on this. That's what this engine needs. It needs its original paint. Oop. As far as anything else it needs, definitely put a head gasket on it. That's a no-brainer. It's definitely spewing out of that gasket. But despite all that, it still runs really well. It's not knocking, it's not hesitating a bit. But we didn't even clean the carburetor. We did nothing to the carburetor. Aside from putting jury-rigged fuel system or fuel supply there. That's all we did, just a little jury-rigged fuel system, and whoop-de-doo. We changed the oil, adjusted the points, which were way out of whack. Way out of whack. And that's about it. I mean, like I said, I mean, you know, with the reduced reliance on fossil fuels, which is a good thing, by the way, overall. And it's funny because a lot of the car guys I know, many of them definitely Republicans, they agree. Like the smart ones agree that this is a good thing, even though it destroys the future for their hobbies and potentially eliminates the classic car market at some point in the future. But it has to be done. I get that. And I totally I agree, but it's still depressing because so much of what I enjoyed growing up is tinkering with old gas engines, and I just love doing it. Someday that won't be a thing anymore, and that terrifies me, because as a youth in America in the 90s, you know, I had three core interests. One of them was, you know, really learning how to, you know, work with computers and electronics, but I wasn't really an electronics buff. I just liked engines. And I didn't choose this as a career path because I just didn't see a future in it. And I saw what my dad went through. And it turns out I was right, because, you know, the heyday of the internal combustion engine is over. We just have to come to grips with that. And it doesn't mean that they're going to disappear overnight. In fact, I'd say that the internal combustion engine will be a big part of our lives for at least another 20 years. But gradually, as they get phased out, will be less and less prevalent. That is the reality. It's not a reality that I like, but hey, you know, the world is bigger than just me. But at least we were able to enjoy this engine, get it running again from a very long slumber, and that was a lot of fun. As for what happens to it next, I don't know. I don't know. And that's where my viewers come in. What should we do with this engine? Where should I put it? What should I put it on? I mean, it's got to go back to work. You know, it's still got life. It's still got energy. It's still got things to do. So what do we do with it? Where do we put this engine? What do we mount it on? I'm going to brainstorm, and I want you to as well. What should I do with this little engine? It's not worth anything. It's not a valuable engine at all. It really isn't worth much of anything. That's the sad truth. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be valuable to be worth preserving. So, looking forward to your input. We literally got it running on the first pull. After we put fuel in it, first pull, fired up, done. Like, I was not expecting that. So clearly this thing had probably been serviced before it was parked. And now I have to shower because I smell like burning stuff. So until then, folks, stay out of trouble. Pull the plug out, and it's running a little rich. It is running really rich, as a matter of fact. So yeah, when we get it back up and running again, we'll have to lean that carb out just a wee bit, make some adjustments to the governor. Yeah, so it'll be fine. I cleaned it up as best I could with a little bit of mass airflow sensor cleaner on the carburetor, which took all the gunk off of it. And as for the paint, just, you know, touched it up a little bit with some WD-40 and a rag. And I mean, it's not perfect, but the thing's quite old. So it's, you know, 70 some odd years old. But, you know, it is what it is. I love saying that. It is what it is. Yeah. But, whatever I do, this threaded boss is probably going to have to come out. I'm not really sure. I think it's heat treated in there, so they... I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'd love to know what it came off of. It's a Sears and Roebuck, and well, it's a Briggs engine, but it has a Sears Roebuck tag on it. So it came off of something from Sears, or it was sold as a bare block, or as a replacement engine for something. So it could be that too. I believe Sears did sell at one point bare engines as replacement units. When I got this engine, initially I thought it had a stuck valve, and turns out I was wrong. It does not have a stuck valve. So, and I also just noticed that the valve cover is loose, and I just realized that maybe some of that burning... No, it was definitely coming from the head gasket. No question it was. But the valve cover is a bit loose, but it's not soaked in oil, so it wasn't leaking from the looks of it. But we will have to tighten that up a little bit. Let me just get this sealed back in position. Maybe I should do a full round of gaskets on this thing. I mean, why not? Parts are still available. You know, why not give it the old full meal deal, you know? It's worth it, right? Well, maybe. These engines don't have a lot of monetary value these days. They just, well, a small engine like this, a common engine like this one here, this is not a rare engine by any stretch. They don't really have a lot of value to them. They're just fun to work on. So, and I know that is not a period correct muffler, but it'll do. It'll do, pig. It'll do. Definitely going to change out this wire. I'll have to order one of those. So I'll get my shopping list together. Maybe we revisit this engine at some point in the future. Till then, folks, that's it. I'm done.